From WFRV TV Local 5, your local election headquarters. This is Newsmaker Sunday with your host, Tom Zalaski.
Good morning. Welcome to Newsmaker Sunday. I'm Tom Zalaski. Two candidates are vying for the seat in the State Assembly, which represents a portion of Green Bay. Drew Kirsteatter and Kristina Shelton are running for the State Assembly District 90 seat. Today we talk with Drew. Let's start this again.
From WFRV TV Local 5, your local election headquarters. This is Newsmaker Sunday with your host, Tom Zalaski.
Good morning. Welcome to Newsmaker Sunday. I'm Tom Zalaski. Two candidates are vying for the seat in the State Assembly, which represents a portion of Green Bay. Drew Kirsteatter and Kristina Shelton are running for the State Assembly District 90 seat. Today we talk with Drew Kirsteatter, the Republican candidate. He is a lifetime resident of Northeast Wisconsin, born in the Manitowoc area. He now lives in Green Bay. He and his wife, students at NWTC. They're both local musicians, and he works with an area local business. And we welcome Drew to the show. Morning, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Tom.
Give us a little background about yourself.
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I am 21 years old, graduated from high school in 2017, and since then I've been working full-time at a local business like you mentioned. My wife and I are both students at NWTC. I'm just going part-time while I'm working, and she's a full-time graphic design student. In addition to that, we're local musicians. We play at a couple of different local venues around town. Well, we haven't been the last couple of months, obviously. Right. And yeah, since then, I've also launched my political campaign. So really excited.
What are you studying at TC?
I'm actually going for music production and audio recording.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Okay. You got into the political world at the age of 21. What was it that made you decide to get into this race? Was there something you heard, something you saw? What was the trigger?
I think it was actually a combination of a lot of things. It was honestly not really even on my radar until a couple of friends brought it up with me. A few people reached out and said, "Hey, Drew, would you be interested in just like talking about this and seeing just kind of if it'd even be something you're interested in?" We think it'd be a really interesting year. A little bit of background about the 90th Assembly District is it hasn't been held by a Republican in over 25 years.
Right.
So definitely not a usual seat for a candidate, especially not a first-time Assembly candidate. Mm-hmm. But given the presidential year and kind of how that's going to sway the election, plus a bunch of the drama that happened between the two Democratic candidates before the primary leading up to this, we thought it might be a little bit of an interesting year, maybe have an opportunity to get someone new in there and at least take a shot at it and see how it goes, right? Mm-hmm. Another thing that kind of led me to it was I'm newly married. My wife and I just celebrated our one-year anniversary a couple of weeks ago. Don't have any kids yet, but we're thinking about it, and we thought, this would be a really good time to try to do some positive good and really do our best to make Wisconsin the best place it can be to raise a family and do business.
Do you have any issues that are top of mind?
I like to think about small business is obviously a big passion of mine. Obviously with music and working for a small business, and my wife is actually running a small business out of our home. So that's really something we're passionate about, and I know it's something that's really important to a lot of voters in the 90th as well. Another thing I'm really kind of focused on is education and making sure that we are giving our students the very best we can, setting them up for the future.
You call yourself a constitutional conservative. What is a constitutional conservative in your mind?
In my mind, a constitutional conservative would be somebody who just looks at the Constitution and kind of uses that as the foundation of kind of where we go from here. And obviously it's an imperfect document and there's a process to amend it, but I think as long as we're basing ourselves in something that's very consistent, that gives us all a very equal platform to move off of.
Now, as you well know, in Madison right now, state government, it is divided. You've got a Republican legislature controlled by the Republicans, the governor's mansion run by a Democrat at the current time. There seems to be gridlock. They are at loggerheads right now. How, if you were elected, would you help to ease that tension down there?
You know, I think one thing that's really going to help with that is just having open and honest conversations, right? And recognizing that at the end of the day, largely we all want very similar things. We just have very different ideas about how to get there or what that should look like. For example, we all, I'd say I don't think there's really anybody in the state of Wisconsin who is against the ideas of peace, equality, opportunity. I think these are all things that are really important to us, and I think at the heart of a lot of these really divisive issues that we struggle with, it's usually one of those things or a combination thereof. So I think recognizing that common foundation and saying, you know, at the heart of this, you and I are not that different. We are not as diametrically opposed as a lot of people would maybe like us to think we are. So just being able to be open about that and reach across the aisle and say, hey, we've got the same motivations here. Let's try to come together over this and say, maybe we disagree on the little details and maybe we disagree about some big details, but let's at least let's have a conversation and let's work together about moving this forward.
We are all battling this coronavirus right now. You are against the statewide mask mandate.
I am.
Tell us why.
You know, I think if you look at the data, especially guidelines coming out of the CDC even, and a lot of the other kind of leading experts in this field, and Dr. Fauci even admitted it back a couple of months ago, it really doesn't seem like masks help all that much. And now we've very suddenly changed our tune, but for a very significant amount of time, that was kind of the general impression: is wear a mask if you're sick. It might help you slow the spread a little bit, but as far as the actual effectiveness, there doesn't seem like there's a whole lot there to really back that up. They say they're kind of based in science, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of that science. I think another major issue that I've had is, regardless of the health side of things, maybe masks help, maybe they don't. There's a lot of evidence out there, but ultimately we just want to do what's best, right? But I think in addition to that, another thing we're seeing, I mentioned I'm a constitutional conservative. I think the power being used to make that mandate is not really there from a governmental perspective. And now we're seeing things like this lawsuit that just came up recently over that. I think a number of times throughout this whole process, Governor Evers has really abused the powers that he has in trying to extend his emergency order a couple of months back and delay elections, now this mask mandate. There are proper channels to go through to do those things, and he really hasn't been doing them. Delaying the election, there's a process in the Constitution for that. Extending the emergency powers, there's a process in the state Constitution for that. But it seems like he's really been kind of taking things into his own hands, and he and his cabinet have been making a lot of those decisions without really trying to work with the legislature. So I think largely holding that accountable, if not because of these particular issues, also because of the precedent that it sets for future issues. If we set that trend that the governor can just decide, yeah, I'm going to extend this order and suspend the election for another 6 months, and I'm going to stay in power during that time, and so are all of my staff. I don't know if Evers would necessarily try to do something with that, but I think it's entirely possible down the road. So we really need to be sticking with kind of the rules we've laid out for ourselves, right? Because this is government by the people, for the people. So if we've only got a couple of people making those decisions, that really doesn't seem to be in the best interests of anybody or really the intentions laid out behind the Constitution.
You mentioned schools, education was one of your top priorities.
Yep.
COVID-19 cases, they're on the rise. Should we open up the schools?
I think if we kind of listen to what people are saying, it seems like the majority do support it. I was reading an article on the CDC website last night about a lot of those details, and they're saying, yeah, it should be pretty safe to reopen schools pretty much across the country. Pediatric doctors are saying the same. Seems like cases spreading among younger individuals, especially school-aged kids, are very, very low. The risk of transmission from kids to teachers, statistically, especially in studies overseas, have been very, very low. And largely children are not the source of family spread. We're seeing that's a lot more coming from the workplace, coming from older members of the family, especially higher risk individuals. So looking at the data and looking at what pediatric doctors are saying, it really sounds like it should be safe to reopen the schools. Also, I've been out talking to a lot of voters, and the overwhelming consensus there is that we really should be reopening, both because of just the parents' schedules. They're still working full time. They still have to put food on the table somehow, and it's going to be really difficult for them to try to adapt their entire schedules around now having their kids home all the time and not having an option as far as childcare. And also, if we're just looking at the development of kids and their education as it progresses, reading studies, over the summer break, a lot of kids lose a very large percentage of what they learned the previous year as far as reading and math skills. It can be between 30 and 50% in certain areas. So now if we are slowing down learning by putting it in a very different format that we're not accustomed to, it's entirely possible that just coming off of that summer break, along with how our school year ended last year, I think it's a very realistic possibility that these kids could be set back quite a ways for their education moving forward.
We continue with Drew Kirsteatter right after this, so please stay with us.